and welcome to the Business Dashboard on Citi TV. My name is Inu Safo. Coming up, government slashes e-levy revenue target for 2022 to 611 million Ghana cedis. Also, the banking community calls on government to reconsider its decision to pass a bill to compel banks in the country to increase lending to players within the agri value chain. And later, stakeholders in the hospitality industry reiterate calls for a reduction in taxes to lessen their woes. All that and more coming up in the next 30 minutes. But first, government has once again revised its revenue target for the electronic transfer levy for this year to 611 million Ghana cedis. The government had hoped to rake in about 6.9 billion Ghana cedis from the collection of the 1.5% levy on mobile money and other electronic transactions, but the figure was revised downwards to about 4.9 billion cedis following the delay in the passage of the e-levy bill. But in the recent 2022 mid-year budget review, the revenue target for the levy has been reduced again to 611 million cedis just 3 months after its implementation. We tell you more about this development in this News Desk report.
The implementation of the electronic transfer levy, which commenced in May 2022, was originally expected to help bring in about 6.9 billion Ghana cedis this year to shore up government's revenue. The levy, which was initially pegged at 1.75% on mobile money and other electronic transactions, was later reduced to 1.5% following protests from various stakeholders. But following several delays in the passage of the e-levy bill by Parliament, it was predicted that the levy will not achieve its intended target. It's just been 3 months into the implementation of the levy and it has underperformed woefully. A leading member of the New Patriotic Party, Gabi Asare Otredako, noted that the tax measure since its implementation has generated only 10% of estimated revenue. Figures from the 2022 mid-year budget review have also disclosed that the new tax, which many Ghanaians opposed vehemently, has only raked in 93.7 million cedis from the 1.46 billion Ghana cedi target for the first half of this year. It is for this reason that the government has revised again the e-levy's revenue target for the year 2022 to 611 million Ghana cedis. This cut of almost 90% was also stated in the mid-year budget review document. This development has since intensified calls by stakeholders and Ghanaians as a whole to scrap the electronic transfer levy. Economist with GCB Capital Limited, Courage Boti, has been reacting to the development.
The revision of the target for e-levy and by extension most of the other new revenue lines are not at all a surprise. I think what is surprising is the significant reduction, really. But yet still, I do not think it was right to take it off at this point in time. Every policy takes low to take off. And of course, the reactions, negative reactions leading to the low collections on the e-levy is anticipated, even if the magnitude is more than expected. Plus, the implementational challenges from the start where individual with different accounts can send 100 cedis through each of those accounts without being charged levy. Now that has been fixed and system unitized, and so it will pay to monitor the data over a longer period to see the trends and patterns. Then that will inform whether maybe to continue or not to continue. Remember the case of the luxury vehicles. It came, data studied over a longer period. You saw the pattern, then you make a decision on that. For a period where we are struggling already with revenue and are trying to make up, you want to keep every line that you can have at this point in time until you have enough data point to make a decision as to whether to continue or not. So it's not surprising at all, and I think it's actually the right call to continue with it until end of year. Then the data can speak for itself as to whether it's a task line worth keeping or not.
Meanwhile, the governor of the Bank of Ghana has shut down calls for the scrapping of the electronic transfer levy despite its poor performance so far. Data published by the central bank shows strong disaffection for the tax from Ghanaians as the mobile money platform registered a 16.3 billion Ghana cedi loss in value in May, the very month the tax was introduced, from the 87.7 billion Ghana cedi recorded in April. Managing Director of Fidelity Bank, Julian Opuni, has added his voice to calls that government's intention to pass a bill to compel banks in the country to increase lending to players within the agric value chain is not enough to boost the sector. He's calling for more engagements with the banks and the creation of more policies to ensure a more enabling environment to support the growth of the sector. This report has more.
Earlier this year, Minister of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Efriya-Kotu, announced that his outfit is preparing a draft bill to be considered by Cabinet to get commercial banks to lend more to the agricultural sector. According to him, the low level of credit granted by commercial banks to players in the agric sector has become a major impediment to the transformation of the sector in the country, despite its significant contribution to national economic growth. Data from the Bank of Ghana's May 2022 Monetary Policy Report indicates that at 3.5%, the forestry, fishing and agricultural sectors are the second lowest recipients of credit as at April 2022, only faring better than the mining and quarrying sector, which received 1.8% of credit from banks in the country. The same report shows that the services sector received the biggest chunk of credit given out by banks at 33.4%, a significant jump from 29.4% in April last year. Commenting on the issue during a media forum, Managing Director of Fidelity Bank, Julian Opuni, said resorting to this drastic measure will not help grow the sector, as financing alone is not the answer to the problems within the country's agricultural sector.
Funding, money, is only one of the inputs to create a strong agricultural sector. And so I think, in my opinion, the conversation is not just about money. So if banks are either incentivized or knocked to do lending to agric sector, to ensure that that lending is safe, we need to create a stronger agric sector support infrastructure or ecosystem. And so I think that conversation needs to be a lot wider. We need policy to support. We need regulations to support. We need the funding. We need different sources of capital to do long-term support. For instance, if you're going to go into agric and you're going to invest in, Atta mentioned about most deposits are short-term. If I decide to go into mango farming from scratch, how long does it take before I get my first crop? So you need to create patient capital. So it's not, the ingredients around that is not just that. We have conversations that need to be had around commercial farming. Because I have a strong belief that if Ghana can support policy around commercial farming as a start, which then is supported by some of these outgrower schemes and smallholder farms, we will have a better structure when it comes to supporting the agric sector. And I think those conversations are happening in the background. If I look at commercial farming, how easy is it for you to find 2,000 hectares all together and belonging to one family or chief? So the conversation is a lot more than about the money. So obviously we welcome a conversation. Funding is one of the things.
You're watching the Business Dashboard on Citi TV. Still ahead, stakeholders in the hospitality industry reiterate calls for a reduction in taxes to lessen their woes. Details coming up shortly. You're welcome back. Hoteliers and the hospitality industry players say the current economic situation in the country is adversely affecting their businesses. According to the Ghana Hotel Association, the numerous taxes they pay is further compounding the issue and has thus called on the government to reduce the number of taxes industry players pay. Our Ashanti regional correspondent Fatih Aminu Ibrahim reports.
There is no doubt the current economic challenges is having a toll on all sectors of the Ghanaian economy. Many industries and various organizations have had cause to call for government support. Members of the hoteliers and the hospitality industry, for instance, say they have been badly hit by the situation, especially since their businesses are sustained by disposable incomes. According to the Ashanti Regional President of the Ghana Hotel Association, just like many Ghanaians are struggling to survive due to the current high cost of living, the hotel industry has not been spared. He says their plight has been worsened because of the many taxes and levies they are supposed to pay.
It is not like how it used to be. You know, we are in tough times. Things are very difficult in the country. We are hoping and we are praying that things will change because it affects every facet of business in the country, not excluding hotels. The tax, one, we have fire service tax that we pay. We have EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. We have LDF, Foods and Drugs Board, or Drugs Authority. We have Ghana Tourism Authority. We have GET Fund, the NHR COVID Fund, and Tourism Development Levy. We pay it every month, you see, and company tax. Then apart from this, we pay SNIT for our staff every month, and tier 1, tier 2. You see, apart from the workers' contribution, we pay as much as 13% in addition to their 5%. So if cumulatively, we pay a lot of taxes. So if the government can bring it down to the level of where traders are also paying the 3%, it will really help us because it increases the rates, our rates. You see, if our rates are high, it discourages guests to patronize our business because we add it on. If I'm charging 100 cedis and I add 20 cedis to it to take care of VAT and the rest, it means our rates are going up, and it will discourage a lot of guests to patronize our business.
The national president of the Ghana Hotel Association, Dr. Edward Akanyameke Jr., wants the government to intervene to help reduce the impact on their businesses.
The strategy is simple. There is somebody who is involved in creating the enabling environment for businesses to thrive, including hotels. That somebody is government. It's a government job, and that's why we say tourism is public sector led and private sector driven. Hotels cannot bring down lending rates. Hotels cannot determine exchange rate. Hotels cannot determine tariffs. Hotels cannot determine taxes, the VAT that we pay. These are all things that are the doorstep of government and its public agencies. So what we are saying that government must deal with some of these things. It so happens that this is a period where we are in some form of crisis, and so talking about some of these things may be like you are repeating the same challenge that we all know we are in. But that is our position, that those who have been appointed to deal with the economy in which you operate must probably do more than they are doing so that the cost of doing business will go down, and then we will all go home smiling.
The government has been urged to give critical attention to the issue of beneficial ownership to help check corruption in the country. Over $5 billion was lost to corruption in 2021 alone, according to the Public Service Survey. Stakeholders believe revenue leakages in the country can be prevented by ensuring that all companies disclose data on the beneficiary owners. There's more in the following report.
Ghana's economy is currently facing challenging times with inflation at an all-time high of nearly 30%. The government, as part of efforts to improve the fortunes of the economy, introduced the Electronic Transfer Levy (e-Levy), which was expected to rake in some 600 million Ghana cedis. However, only 10% of the target has been raised since the implementation of the levy. After the e-levy failed to bring in the expected revenue, the government has been advised to seek other means of raising money. Theo Shiruvu is the regional lead for Africa and the Middle East Government Partnership, and he says revenue leakages in the country can be prevented by ensuring that all companies disclose data on the beneficiary owners.
Beneficial transparency is important because this is how you are able to find out who is actually doing business with government, how they are getting these contracts, and make sure that it limits and reduces the amount of corruption, fraud, and illicit financial flows. So it brings back money into the public purse so that money can be invested into schools, into education, into healthcare centers, and making sure that citizens get the services that they need. So this is why beneficial ownership is important. And for the Open Government Partnership, it is important because it is a way of deterring corruption, but it is also important in the sense that it enables citizens to know who is doing business with government, who is getting contracts, government contracts, especially those that have political influence, that are getting contracts from government.
Speaking at the same event, the senior presidential advisor Yao Osafo-Maafo assured Ghanaians of the government's commitment to enhancing domestic revenue mobilization.
Emphasizing the critical role of domestic revenue mobilization and sustained efforts by government to reduce corruption through policy and legislative forms to contribute to the achievement of sustainable development goals. The 2015 Addis Ababa Action Agenda on Financing for Development, for instance, emphasized that mobilization and effective use of domestic resources are central to our common pursuit of sustainable development. You cannot talk about development without enhancing domestic revenue mobilization.
You're watching the Business Dashboard on Citi TV. Still ahead, stakeholders within Ghana's agricultural sector call for policy coherence to grow the industry. Details coming up shortly. You're welcome back to the Business Dashboard on Citi TV. Now, to effectively grow the agricultural sector while ensuring farmers thrive, there ought to be a deliberate consistency in policies. The Regional Director of Solidaridad West Africa, Isaac Jemfi, believes this is critical to transforming the sector. He argues that the constant change in industry subsidies, for instance, affects the ability of players in the space to plan. He spoke to the media on the sidelines of the official ending of his outfit's second phase of the cocoa rehabilitation and intensification program.
We need to look at policy coherence. We want to see government policy being consistent in a manner that allows private sector to act. Take, for instance, the subsidy that we have on a lot of inputs. The rural service centers want to charge for all the services and inputs, and no farmer will want to take an input if it's free or even if it's subsidized. We are not against subsidy, but if subsidy is the pathway, we would love to see a civil society that being firmed in a manner that the private sector can operate around it. It shouldn't be one time there's subsidy, another time there's no subsidy, another time the percentage of the subsidy is high, another time it's low. That's what we mean by having very coherent policies that helps us to plan the sector's transformation. Another area that we think needs attention as far as policy is concerned is we've tested an institutional framework, the Rural Service Center, which is a commercially viable entity that private sector companies can set up within their business model and deliver services to farmers. It's worked very well.
This is where we bring down the curtains on today's edition of the Business Dashboard on Citi TV. Our website, citibusinessnews.com, has more information on our top stories and more. Subscribe to CitiTube on YouTube for more exclusive video content from Citi TV. Download the Citi Newsroom app on the Google Play Store or the App Store and keep updated on the go. You can also watch Citi TV on DSTV channel 363 and on GoTV channel 182. I am Enosafo. Thank you for watching.